10 Truths About Food and Farming. Our food and farming system is at breaking point. For decades, we've forced farmers to produce more food at lower prices, and nature has paid the price. Our politicians have signed trade deals that force our farmers to compete with imports of lower standards, which could put many of them out of business. Targets for reducing our carbon emissions threaten food production itself and distract us from cleaning up our fields, rivers and seas. No wonder the farmers who put food on our tables feel betrayed and undervalued. We must stop deceiving ourselves. We know we can't go on like this. To restore nature, revitalise rural communities, rebuild food security and improve the national diet, we must face up to 10 truths. Truth 1. Cheap food has hidden costs. For every pound we spend on food, we spend another pound in hidden costs. Costs which don't appear on the balance sheet, on health, environment, animal welfare, and the well-being of farmers and rural communities. Intensive agriculture is harming our soils and rivers, and antibiotic overuse in livestock farming poses a serious threat to public health. Over 60% of adults are overweight or obese, costing the NHS billions. Over a quarter of the food grown in the UK is wasted. We must face it. This is both an economic and a cultural problem, the marker of a throwaway society. Truth 2. Farmers are the solution, not the problem. Some environmentalists want to transfer land from agriculture and even ban livestock farming altogether. This is a mistake. It would make us more dependent upon imports, offshore the ecological costs overseas, and weaken our rural communities. The British countryside, and the wildlife it supports, has evolved with farming in the mix. It's a product of farming. By combining centuries-old farming wisdom with investment and innovation, our food production can be sustainable and profitable. Farmers must be at the centre of this transformation and must be fully supported to do so. Truth 3. Subsidies have created more problems than they have solved. Almost every type of farming now makes more money from subsidies than from food production. Farmers spend too much time form-filling for less and less income. Targets and goals are constantly changing, causing many farmers to consider retirement and putting off potential new entrants. Domestic market and trade policies could make farmers financially secure without relying on subsidies, but this will take time. Until then, the subsidy system must provide a stable environment to ensure that farmers stay in business. Paying farmers not to farm is not the answer. Subsidies should enable farms to produce food and protect our environment. Truth 4. Supermarkets must change their ways. Getting everything you need in one weekly shop has revolutionized our lives, but convenience comes at a cost. Supermarkets force suppliers to accept extremely low prices and unfavorable terms. Farmers make less than a penny of profit on many staple items. Orders may be cancelled at the last minute, often due to finding a cheaper source overseas. Perfectly good produce is rejected for being the wrong shape or size. This can't go on. There are health impacts too. Misleading labelling leads us towards unhealthy food. It doesn't have to be this way. Supermarkets should put British suppliers first, treat them fairly, and promote healthy food. Truth 5. Healthy food should not be a luxury. Over a third of people on low incomes feel that healthy food is unaffordable. Parts of our towns and cities have become food deserts, with a lack of shops selling fresh ingredients, or food swamps, oversupplied with outlets selling high-calorie junk food. Nutritious, local and seasonal food should never be a luxury just for the wealthy. Developing local food networks which connect producers and consumers will improve the lives of millions. Truth 6. Farm size matters. The British countryside was once a patchwork of farms of different sizes, but pressure for higher yields and cheaper food has tipped the balance towards ever larger farms. England has lost nearly a third of its small farms in just 10 years. If we're not careful, British family farms could disappear altogether. Both large and small farms can be viable if good practice is followed. Diversity of farm size strengthens our resilience in food production, boosts regional economies, and will help revitalise our rural communities. Truth 7. We need a new generation of farmers. Our farmers are getting old. Over half the farmers in England and Wales are over 55 years old, and nearly a third are over 65. Many just sell their land when they retire because their children just don't want to take over. New entrants find it hard to get into farming. The shortage of tenancies, affordable housing and the right skills training are serious barriers for aspiring young farmers. In the past 40 years, local authorities have sold off over half the land previously rented out as county farms, and nearly 80% of land-based colleges have been liquidated. Without new blood coming into farming, the future for the countryside is bleak. We must provide new routes for young people into farming. Truth 8. Trade and purchasing policy must put British interests first. International trade lets countries diversify their national diet and reduces risks from unpredictable harvests. But in an increasingly volatile global market, we must not become too reliant upon imports. UK food self-sufficiency has fallen steeply since the 1990s, and we now import more than we export for all food categories. Britain has become dangerously reliant on food imports. There's no point making UK farms more ecologically sustainable if they are undercut by cheap imports from countries with lower standards. We must veto trade deals that allow this to happen. Trade must be fair. Our government spends billions every year on food for schools, hospitals, prisons and work canteens. We must source as much of this food as we can from British suppliers. It's a major opportunity. Truth 9. The public wants change. Cheap food at all costs is what we've been given, and governments have been too scared to challenge this. We're told that people don't want a nanny state, and perhaps they don't. But a weak state, incapable of supporting British farmers to provide healthy, locally produced food, is no good to anyone. What people want from their government is sensible leadership. Truth 10. We need a new economic model. Neoliberal economic policies have prevented any meaningful attempt to solve these problems. Free trade and open labour markets have chilled investment in training and innovation, increased our reliance on global supply chains, forced farmers to prioritise yield over sustainability, and sold swathes of our countryside into foreign ownership. The SDP advocates a social market economy with a healthy balance between the public and private sectors, where the interests of our citizens always come first. The cause of our problems is the structure of our farming and food systems and the incentives they apply. The solutions lie in facing up to the true cost of good food, the value of ecological restoration, and the need for trade policies aimed at greater national food security. The SDP's new Green Paper, Farms, Fields and Food, sets out a holistic approach to repair our food and farming systems. We are not afraid to take radical action where needed to ensure the health, prosperity and security of British people. The British landscape we seek will be a patchwork of different-sized farms interspersed with clean rivers and hedgerows buzzing with life. Farmers will be respected for putting food on our tables and for caring for the environment. They'll be able to plan for the future, with a new generation ready to take up the reins. Villages and market towns will once again be home to thriving multi-generational communities with housing, jobs and services to support them. People will be able to afford locally produced ingredients and know how to prepare healthy meals for their families. The countryside will be a living, working landscape for all to enjoy. Can we afford to do it? We cannot afford not to.